Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Always excited to dig into some history.
Well, get ready, because today we're going deep into British computing.
Yeah,
Buckle up, because it's a wild ride.
it is.
We've got these excerpts from Britain's Computer Revolution and reassembling the history of computing around gender's formative influence.
Oh, yeah, these are fascinating.
These academic texts, they
But-
really reveal some stuff you just wouldn't expect.
Yeah, it's amazing what's hidden in plain sight sometimes.
Right, like, okay,
Yeah.
think about World War II.
Okay.
Britain, the race to crack Nazi codes.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of Alan Turing, right? Bletchley Park.
Of course. So,
But what if I told you there's a whole other side to that story?
a hidden side.
Like a whole hidden
Yeah,
layer.
a whole other dimension. Yeah.
One that history has kind of tried to forget.
Yeah, it's truly remarkable how much has been overlooked.
So while Turing's contributions were huge,
Absolutely groundbreaking.
he wasn't alone at Bletchley.
No, not at all.
There were thousands of women there, too,
Thousands?
working on those early computers.
Yeah, the world's first digital, electronic, programmable computers, in fact.
Really? Wow.
It's incredible.
I had no idea.
These women were the ones making these incredibly complex machines actually work.
So they weren't just like typing in data or
No,
something.
no, no.
What were they doing?
They were programmers, engineers, mathematicians,
Riley.
the brains behind the operation.
Wow.
They were tackling these massive programming challenges, working on machines like the Colossus and Bomb.
The Colossus and Bomb.
These were instrumental in decrypting German messages.
Oh, wow.
Could you imagine the pressure,
Yeah.
the secrecy,
Yeah.
the sheer brain power involved?
That's incredible.
Oh, it really is.
So their work must have been really important to the war effort.
Oh, absolutely. Crucial, in fact.
Yeah.
Some historians even argue that their contributions, particularly to breaking the Enigma and Lorenz ciphers, shortened war by years and
Wow.
were essential to the success of D-Day. That's right.
That's insane.
It's a staggering thought, isn't it?
But if their work was so vital, why haven't we heard more about these women?
Well, that's the real tragedy here, isn't it?
Yeah.
After the war, their contributions were practically erased from history.
Erased.
A combination of factors, I think.
Mm.
Post-war secrecy, Cold War paranoia,
Yeah.
and let's be honest,
Mm-hmm.
a societal tendency to downplay women's achievements, especially in technical fields.
Right. Yeah.
It's like history tried to sweep these women under the rug,
Wow.
despite their vital role in the war effort.
It's hard to believe
It really is.
that such important work could just vanish like that.
And it sets a rather disturbing precedent, I think,
Okay.
for what happens next in the story of British computing.
Right.
Because you have to remember, this is a nation that was at the forefront of the field.
Yeah.
They had all this incredible talent and experience,
Mhm.
but then things take a sharp turn.
So
Okay.
let me get this straight. We've got women leading the way in computing,
At the forefront, absolutely.
playing this crucial role in winning World War II.
Instrumental, I'd say.
And then their contributions are just kind of brushed aside, almost forgotten.
It's a sad truth, unfortunately.
What happens next? How does this impact how computing develops in Britain after the war?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The post-war period sees Britain trying to rebuild and modernize.
Yeah.
Computing is seen as a key part of that effort.
Makes sense.
But instead of building on the expertise of those wartime pioneers,
Right.
a very different
Mm-hmm.
and frankly baffling trend emerges.
Oh, I'm intrigued now. What happened?
We see the rise of what were called machine grades.
Machine grades.
Yes.
What's that?
These were specific roles, mostly within the civil service, primarily filled by women.
Okay.
They were tasked with operating these increasingly complex electromechanical machines.
Machines.
Yes, think early computers,
Okay.
but not quite the fully electronic ones we think of today.
Got it. So,
Women were still involved in computing,
yes, very much so.
but in a different way.
In a different capacity, yes.
What's the problem with that?
Well, the problem, and it's a huge one,
Okay.
is that the very proficiency these women demonstrated with these machines,
The skills they were so good at.
the skills that were so valuable during the war,
Yeah.
those skills were now used to justify lower pay
What?
and limited career prospects.
No way.
They were seen as machine operators, not computer scientists or programmers.
So the language itself
Exactly.
was used to minimize.
They're diminished their
Precise.
skills
Precise.
and their contributions.
It's a really frustrating turn of events.
It's like a complete 180 from wartime heroes to...
To undervalued
Yeah.
machine operators.
It's like they were punished for being good at their jobs.
In a way, yes.
It's especially crazy considering Britain was trying to modernize and catch up technologically.
Right, emerging from rationing, austerity,
Yeah.
a desperate need to innovate.
And computing was at the heart of that.
At
But this system,
this workforce structure,
yeah,
with its built-in gender biases,
was holding them back.
it was a significant obstacle,
So they had this huge opportunity
a golden opportunity,
to leverage the experience of all these women who were already experts.
a ready and able workforce.
And then they just didn't.
They missed the mark.
And all while the government was pushing for a technological revolution.
It's a glaring contradiction, isn't it?
A total contradiction.
It really highlights how gender dynamics were deeply intertwined with the development of British computing.
It wasn't just a side note.
Not at all.
It was a driving force.
Shaping its trajectory, absolutely.
And I bet the consequences of those early decisions had a ripple effect for years to come.
Oh, absolutely. But that, my friend, is a story for part 2 of our deep dive.
You can't leave me hanging like that.
Oh, you'll want to hear this.
Okay, fine.
We'll pick up the story next time.
I'm already hooked.
Stay tuned.
Okay, so last time we left off with British computing at this, a crossroads. The government's pushing for this white-hot tech revolution.
Right.
It's the 1960s. But at the same time, they're sidelining all these women who could be leading the way.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make sense.
It is a fascinating paradox.
It's like they knew
No.
computing was important.
The power of computing.
Yeah, they're investing in it.
Absolutely.
But then their vision of who should be in charge,
Right.
it's like totally stuck in the past.
Very much rooted in traditional gender roles, unfortunately.
So they're investing in this cutting edge tech,
Yeah.
but sticking with these,
Outdated.
these outdated ideas about
Social norms.
social norms.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was their vision then?
Well, the government really wanted to create this,
Like an ideal
an ideal almost,
computer person.
exactly, this class of technocratic elites.
Technocratic elites.
Men who could move seamlessly from the machine room to the boardroom.
So not just technical experts.
No, leaders, managers
Okay.
who understood the technical side, but also the bigger picture.
So their perfect computer person was
A man in a suit,
a man in a suit calling the shots.
making the decisions.
But what about all the skilled women
Right.
who are already doing the work?
Yeah, they're essentially supposed to just fade into the background.
Fade away, just disappear.
It was a deliberate attempt to shift the perception of computing
Okay.
from this feminized, low-status field.
So basically women's work
Seen as such, yeah.
to a masculine,
Status.
high status one.
Yeah.
But didn't they have a shortage of skilled workers back then?
That's the irony. They did.
So instead of promoting all these talented women,
Who were already there.
they focused on recruiting
Young men
young men.
with executive potential.
It's like they were trying to reinvent the wheel.
They wanted to build this new class of tech-savvy managers from scratch
Instead of
instead of recognizing the talent that was already there.
right there in front of them.
It's mind-boggling.
It's like they shot themselves in the foot.
A self-inflicted wound, for sure.
And this wasn't just about overlooking talent.
No, it went deeper than that.
Okay, what do you mean?
This was about power,
Power.
control,
Control over what?
computing.
Okay.
Remember, we're talking about mainframe computers.
Those huge.
Massive symbols of power. Controlling these machines meant controlling information,
Controlling information.
decision-making, entire industries.
So by pushing women out,
They weren't just creating a labor shortage.
they were reinforcing
Harmful stereotypes.
those stereotypes about
About who belongs in tech.
and about who has the right to be in control.
Exactly.
So this obviously backfires, right?
Spectacularly.
Everything.
They created this artificial labor shortage by excluding the very people they needed.
Wow.
Projects were delayed. Companies struggled to find qualified workers.
Yeah.
The pace of innovation slowed.
It's like they were so focused on this.
Idealized vision of who should be in charge that they totally missed the bigger picture.
The forest for the trees.
Exactly.
So what happened then?
Well, while Britain was pouring resources into these expensive centralized mainframes, other countries were exploring different approaches to computing.
Different approaches. Like what?
More distributed systems.
Okay.
More flexible. More user-friendly.
So they missed out on.
the rise of personal computers,
Wow.
which had huge implications for software development,
Yeah.
for the entire trajectory of the tech industry.
They were clinging to the past while everyone else was moving forward.
They were trying to control computing when others were making it accessible.
So it's like a chain reaction.
A domino effect
One small decision
to exclude women from positions of power.
led to this huge impact on the entire industry.
The butterfly effect.
Wow, that's a great way to put it.
It's a reminder that technology doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's shaped by social context, power dynamics, and decisions that seem small at the time, but have huge consequences.
So let's talk about some specific examples.
Okay.
How did these gendered labor practices actually play out?
Well, one example is training and education.
Okay.
The government invested heavily in training programs, but these programs were mostly for men.
Wait, they were training men
For jobs.
for jobs that women were already doing.
Essentially, yes.
That's crazy.
It sounds unbelievable.
But it's
The
true.
research shows it.
So they were actively training men to replace women.
It further entrenched the gender divide.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
Men were seen as the leaders,
No natural choice.
and women were relegated to these
Lower-level roles.
lower-level roles,
Fewer women pursued careers in computing because of it.
perpetuating the stereotype that it was a male field.
It's a tragic cycle.
It really is.
And it's not just a computing problem either.
Right. You mentioned this was happening in other industries, too.
Absolutely. The sources draw parallels to other fields
Like what?
where women were initially at the forefront,
Mm-hmm.
only to be pushed aside as those fields gained prestige and power.
So it's not just about technology. It's about
Power.
who has it, who controls
And
it.
who is to shape the future?
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this struggling industry, outdated technology,
Right.
and a workforce held back by gender inequality.
It's a recipe for disaster.
But this isn't the end of the story, right?
Oh, no, there's more to come.
I can't wait to hear it.
The final chapter of British computing is a real eye-opener.
Okay, so we're back and ready to, finish this story about British computing.
The final chapter.
The final chapter.
Yeah.
We've seen how, these hidden gender dynamics have shaped the industry.
Really from the beginning.
Yeah, from the beginning,
Oh.
those amazing women at Bletchley Park getting erased.
A real injustice.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then those skilled women in the post-war period getting sidelined. A recurring theme, unfortunately.
It's like Britain had this chance
Yeah.
to be a leader in computing,
They were right there at the forefront.
but they just let it slip away.
Missed opportunities, stubborn biases.
It's kind of heartbreaking, you know?
It really is a cautionary tale.
So let's fast forward a bit.
Sure.
It's the late 1970s, early 1980s.
Mhm.
What's happening with British computing now?
Well, at this point,
Yeah.
the picture's pretty bleak, to be honest.
Really?
The industry's struggling.
How so?
Labor shortages everywhere.
Oh, no.
They're falling behind American companies like IBM. Yeah, who are innovating rapidly.
Remember ICL,
ICL?
the company the government created?
Oh, yeah, the national champion.
Yeah, what happened to them?
It was a massive failure, I'm afraid.
All right.
By the 1980s, they were totally dependent on government contracts.
Wow.
They just couldn't keep up with all the changes happening.
Like what?
The rise of mini computers, personal computer.
They were still stuck on mainframes,
Right.
right?
Exactly. They bet big on mainframes.
Which were
Expensive, complex,
Yeah.
and increasingly out of touch with what the market wanted.
So basically they missed the boat.
Completely.
And those gender dynamics we talked about.
They played a big role in all this.
How so?
The focus on mainframes,
Yeah.
which was driven by this idea of a male-dominated tech elite.
Right.
It made British computing less adaptable.
Less able to change.
Exactly.
And less competitive.
In the global market.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's
Yeah.
about who controls it.
Yeah,
Exactly
yeah,
to decide its future.
And in this case, those decisions were made by a select few,
Who?
blinded by their own biases.
Wow.
The consequences were huge.
Yeah.
They missed out on so much talent. They clung to this outdated model.
Yeah.
And they lost their position in the global tech race.
What happened to ICL in the end?
They were bought out.
Why?
A Japanese company called Fujitsu.
Wow, what a way to go out.
Kind of a symbolic ending, isn't it?
It started with so much potential.
All that wartime innovation.
Yeah.
And it ended with,
A whimper.
yeah, basic.
Like a cautionary tale.
Absolutely.
You can have brilliant minds.
Yeah.
You can be ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't adapt,
If you don't challenge your own assumptions,
you can lose it all.
it happens all the time.
And the most tragic part
Tell me,
is the long-term impact.
on women in tech,
Yeah, exactly.
that gendered division of labor,
The idea that computing was a man's job.
it discouraged generations of women from pursuing careers in STEM.
It's still happening today.
To a certain extent, yeah.
We still see this gender gap in tech.
It's a problem.
It's not just about representation.
No.
It's about who has power,
Who makes the decision?
who shapes the future.
Exactly.
So what can we learn from all this?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need to be aware of our own biases.
Like those unconscious ideas we have.
About who belongs in tech.
Yeah, who's a computer person?
We need to make sure everyone has a chance
Participate.
to contribute.
To shape the future of technology.
It's not just about being fair.
It's about unlocking all that potential.
All that human ingenuity.
I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners.
I agree.
Technology isn't neutral,
It reflects our values, our biases, our choices.
and we need to make sure.
That the future of tech is more inclusive.
More equitable.
More innovative.
That's what it's all about.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's our deep dive into British computing,
What a journey.
from wartime innovation.
To a surprising decline.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Until next time.
See you on the next deep dive.